when you're in a post-conflict society, you're concerned about violence reigniting, and you want to stress what is really important about the peace process in order to prevent that. In our situation, there's no doubt that at the heart of the peace agreement was a human rights and equality agenda. Now, we don't think that was adequately implemented, and in some ways recent developments such as Brexit have weakened that situation. Nonetheless, we do think it makes sense for people living in a pre-conflict society to actually look at these potential lessons. What do we mean by a pre-conflict society? Well, where you do have political and constitutional deadlock, perhaps, which threatens to break out of the bounds of normal law, the rule of law, and political dialogue. So we thought it was interesting to try and put some of those things together. Now, every situation is different, so you can't simply lift solutions from one place for another. But amongst the issues that we had to deal with was, for example, self-determination. The British government said it had no selfish interest in remaining in Northern Ireland, and both the British and Irish governments agreed that it's for the people of Ireland as a whole to decide their future, and only if a majority in the north wanted to go into a united Ireland could they. But if they did want that, that would be facilitated by both governments. Now, that's not a direct lesson, and we've got to be clear, there is no general international right of self-determination. But in our situation, it was a necessary precursor. Another aspect that was necessary but difficult was the release of prisoners. And even though the prisoners in our situation had been convicted of all kinds of violent offences, including murder, they were all released within 2 years of the peace agreement being signed. Everybody recognised that unless the prisoners were involved in the peace process, then it wouldn't happen. I think it's just important to say that where you've got prisoners, you've got symbolic hostages almost, and it makes dialogue difficult unless part of the dialogue is how do we resolve this situation. There were some other aspects which may have broader relevance. We had a principle of equality of nationality between British and Irish, so that people born in Northern Ireland, the agreement says it's their birthright to choose to be Irish or British or both, and to have the citizenships of each country just by choice, simply. One of the problems that Brexit has brought is that after Brexit, Irish citizens born in Northern Ireland, in other words, who choose Irish citizenship, will be EU citizens, whereas those who choose British citizenship won't be. So it's another focus of division. There's a whole range of other aspects. One point I will just point to, because it is one of our successes, I think, imperfect as it is, and that was police reform. The police are committed to human rights now in Northern Ireland and use human rights as an operational guide to policing, not just something that stops them doing what they really want to do. And we have a very powerful police complaints mechanism, a police ombudsman that has its own corps of investigators and so on. And this is one of the pluses that we preach about from a human rights perspective from Northern Ireland. Every country could do with this kind of police reform. Where the role of police has been problematic, it may be particularly important. We're continuing our fight for a rights-based society, whatever constitutional form that takes, and we wish you well in the same efforts here.